if I told you that the most consequential piece of reading you're going to do today isn't some, you know, dense white paper, a sprawling textbook, but actually just an 8-word login screen?
I mean, it sounds totally absurd on its face.
Right.
But the architecture of a digital doorway, like the
Yeah.
specific language a system uses right at the threshold, it actually tells you an immense amount about the machinery operating on the other side.
Yeah. And that is exactly what we are unpacking today for you, our listener, because, well, we know you.
We do.
You're a learner who values deep understanding but absolutely despises information overload. You want the high signal insight without all the noise. And frankly, I mean, you have given us the ultimate minimalist challenge today.
Honestly incredible.
Yeah, you didn't send us a 50-page report. You sent us exactly 8 words.
It is the literal definition of a microtext.
Right. So let me just read the entirety of the source material you provided for us to dive into today. It says excerpts from Google Gemini. Sign in Google Apps. That's it. That is the whole prompt.
And honestly, it's a brilliant starting point. I mean, we cross these tiny digital thresholds dozens of times a day without even a second thought, you know?
Oh, constantly.
But if we slow down and actually look at the mechanisms implied by these specific 8 words, we start to see the blueprint of modern digital ecosystems.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I really want to start with the very first word because it sets up this strange expectation before we even get to the action.
Right, the word excerpts.
Exactly. The text says excerpts from Google Gemini. And I just have a question about that plurality. Like, why excerpts with an S?
Yeah, what plural?
Right. If I am just walking up to an AI prompt, what does it mean that the system is framing its output as multiple excerpts? It kind of feels like being handed this massive, multi-volume anthology, but when you open it, it just asks for your ID.
Well, that specific word choice, excerpts, is actually a perfect window into how large language models, or LLMs, actually function under the hood. Because we are so used to the paradigm of a search engine, right? Where you put in a query and it retrieves a static document.
Yeah, a web page or an article.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Gemini isn't retrieving, it's generating.
Right, it's creating the text on the fly.
Precisely. When you interact with an LLM, the system is predicting the next most likely token, which is essentially just a piece of a word over and over again based on the vast neural network it was trained on.
Okay.
It is an active, iterative process. So when the text says excerpts, it is technically accurate in a really fascinating way. You are never seeing the entirety of Gemini's knowledge base.
Right, you couldn't possibly.
Exactly. You are coaxing out a highly specific, probabilistic slice of its capability in that exact moment.
Oh, wow. So it's not like pulling a pre-written book off a library shelf.
No, not at all.
It's more like the book is literally writing itself while I'm reading it, and I'm only getting the specific paragraphs my prompt asked for.
Yes, and it's a continuous dialogue. You ask a question, you get an excerpt. You refine your...
Give it another excerpt.
Exactly. The plurality implies that interacting with this entity isn't some, one-and-done transaction. It's a stream.
A stream of excerpts.
Yeah, and that leads to a crucial technical reality, which is that generating that stream of novel text takes an enormous amount of computational power.
Which perfectly explains why we hit a wall immediately after that grand promise.
Right.
Because computing power isn't free. The text shifts instantly from this, generative promise to a rigid command. Sign in.
The gateway. I mean, you cannot pull from the model until you authenticate.
And I want to talk about the mechanics of that gateway, because the command, sign in, is so ubiquitous, we just accept it as a universal speed bump, right?
We do.
But what is actually happening when a system stops your momentum entirely and demands that you sign in?
Well, it's important to understand this not just as a roadblock, but as a really complex token exchange.
A token exchange?
Yeah. In modern web architecture, when you hit a sign-in prompt, you are usually engaging with something called single sign-on, or SSO.
Okay, yeah.
And that's often powered by protocols like OAuth.
Right, okay, I've heard of Oath, but how does it actually work in practice? Because I always just picture it like showing my ID to a front desk clerk.
That's a decent starting point, actually, but let's push that analogy a little further.
All right.
Imagine you walk into a massive, highly secure hotel resort. You go to the front desk and you show your passport. That is the initial authentication, right? Verifying your core identity.
Make sure I am who I say I am.
Exactly. But the front desk doesn't, send a security guard to walk around with you all day to prove who you are to everyone else.
Right, that would be terrible.
Yeah. Instead, they hand you a digital key card.
Oh, right, and I just tap that card wherever I go.
Exactly. In the digital world, that key card is an authentication token.
Got it.
So when you hit sign in, you are essentially telling the system to check your core credentials, so your username and password, and in exchange, the server hands your browser a secure token. From that millisecond on, every time you ask Gemini to generate an excerpt, your browser silently flashes that digital key card to the server.
Oh, that makes total sense. So the system isn't constantly asking, who are you? Who are you?
No, not at all.
It's just checking the token.
Yes. But, and here is where the hotel key card analogy gets really interesting, especially when we look at the rest of your source text.
Okay.
That key card doesn't just have your name on it. It carries specific permissions, which in OAuth are called scopes.
Scopes.
Yeah. It tells the electronic locks exactly which doors you are allowed to open. So you can get into your room, the gym, and the pool, but you can't get into the maintenance closet.
Oh, wow. So when I sign into Gemini, the token I get is encoded with specific access rights.
Precisely. And that brings us to, honestly, the most revealing part of the 8 words you brought us. Because the text doesn't say the key card only opens one door.
Right. The text says, sign in Google Apps.
Yeah.
It literally smushes the words together into a single breathless phrase.
The typographical anomaly?
Yes. Now, I mean, we could easily dismiss the lack of a space between in and Google as just some simple formatting glitch, right? Like a sloppy copy-paste artifact.
Sure.
But honestly, if you look at it as a piece of UX user experience, it serves as this incredible metaphor for how frictionless modern digital ecosystems have actually become.
I completely agree with you. Let's look at the mechanics of why that friction is removed.
Well, here is how I visualize that missing space. Imagine you are walking through an airport, okay, and you step onto one of those flat moving walkways.
Right, the people movers.
Yeah. But instead of just gliding you down the hall, the millisecond your foot touches it, it seamlessly yanks you forward, and suddenly you are standing in the middle of a massive department store.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, completely and seamlessly connected to everything. There is absolutely no breathing room between the act of entering, the in, and the destination itself, Google Apps.
It's a great visual because it really highlights the concept of ecosystem capture. The text doesn't say you are signing into Google Gemini alone.
No, it doesn't.
It explicitly says Google Apps, plural.
I noticed that. Another plural. Like, why can't I just use Gemini in a vacuum? Why does the system demand that my token connects to multiple apps?
Because of how large language models actually provide value.
Okay.
We talked earlier about how Gemini generates those excerpts, right? If you use an LLM in a total vacuum, it only knows its base training data.
Right.
It can tell you how to code in Python or, summarize a historical event, but doesn't know anything about you.
Right. It's smart, but it's completely generic.
Exactly. But for an AI to be truly useful as a personal assistant, it needs grounding data. It needs what engineers call a context window.
Context window.
Yeah, filled with relevant, personalized information. So, to give you the best possible excerpt, Gemini needs to know what meetings you have coming up, what documents you were just editing, and what emails you received this morning.
And where does all that personalized information live? In the Google Apps.
Exactly. Your calendar, your docs, your Gmail. So when you cross that threshold and sign in, that OAuth token we discussed isn't just granting you access to Gemini.
It's way bigger than that.
Yeah, the scopes on that digital keycard are authorizing a massive interconnected web of data exchange. Gemini is literally being granted access to pull context from your apps to feed its generation engine.
So the lack of a space that in Google Apps is actually a perfect reflection of the engineering.
It really is.
There is no technical space between these tools anymore. Gaining access to one entity immediately and honestly forcefully integrates you into the wider network.
That is the absolute core of modern API integration.
APIs, yeah.
Application programming interfaces. They allow these different software silos to talk to each other instantly. The friction of moving between a word processor, an email client, and an AI assistant, it has been deliberately engineered out of existence.
Which is incredibly convenient, right? I mean, I love that I can just ask an AI to summarize my unread emails without having to manually copy and paste everything.
Oh, it is incredibly convenient.
Yeah.
But for you, the learner, who actively tries to manage information overload, it's a critical architectural feature to just be aware of.
Because of the trade-off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The elimination of friction often comes at the cost of awareness. A space between two words, it's a breath. It's a microsecond of pause where the brain parses the separation of concepts.
Yeah.
In is the action. Google Apps is the destination.
So by removing the space, even if it's just a formatting quirk, it mimics how the system removes that mental pause entirely.
Yes.
It merges the action of the user seamlessly into the ecosystem. You aren't just logging in, you are being integrated.
Integrated, yes. You approach a tool hoping for a quick, distilled excerpt of knowledge. But to actually get it, the underlying mechanics require you to authorize a connection to a sprawling, infinitely complex ecosystem.
It's massive.
The threshold is narrow, just a quick sign-in. But the room you enter is unimaginably vast, and the data flows in both directions.
That is such a fascinating way to look at it. The data flows in both directions.
It has to.
The token lets me pull excerpts out of the AI, but it also lets the AI pull context out of my apps. It's a completely symbiotic transaction.
And that transaction, that data exchange, is the foundational currency of the internet right now.
Oh, totally.
The computing power required to run models like Gemini is staggering. I mean, they cost billions of dollars to train and millions of dollars a day just to operate.
Millions a day,
Yeah.
huh?
So the reason you can access this technology just by clicking sign in is because integrating you into the ecosystem, tethering your verified identity to the apps, that is valuable enough to offset that compute cost.
Wow, so we aren't just paying with our identity, we are paying by becoming a node in that larger network.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this is why analyzing these microtexts is so rewarding. Every single word on that login screen is a result of intense engineering and strategic decision-making.
It's incredible. So let's bring this all together because I want to make sure we're really distilling the insights for our listener today.
Let's do it.
You gave us this tiny 8-word fragment, excerpts from Google Gemini, sign Google Apps. And from that, we mapped out a whole lot of invisible machinery.
We really did. We started with the concept of excerpts and how it reveals the very nature of large language models.
Right.
You aren't querying a static database. You are prompting a neural network to probabilistically generate a slice of its capability on the fly.
Right. And because that real-time generation takes massive computational power, we hit the gateway, sign in.
The token exchange.
Yes, we explored how that isn't just a simple roadblock, but an intricate exchange of authentication tokens, like a digital hotel key card that verifies your identity and grants specific permissions.
And finally, we looked at the frictionless collision of in-Google apps. We saw how the lack of a space perfectly mimics modern API architecture.
The moving walkway.
Right. To give you personalized, useful excerpts, the AI requires a context window filled with your data. Therefore, the sign-in process doesn't just unlock one tool, it inextricably links you to the entire plural ecosystem of applications.
So the key takeaway for you, the learner, is to recognize the mechanics hiding behind these everyday digital thresholds. I mean, you navigate a world where you actively try to optimize your learning and avoid the noise.
Yes.
But every single day, you pass through these tiny gates without necessarily thinking about the massive bidirectional data exchange happening right under the hood.
And recognizing how things like SSO tokens and context windows actually work, well, it gives you back your agency.
Absolutely.
It allows you to mentally insert that missing space back into the equation. You can take a breath and acknowledge the complex trade you are making before you cross the boundary.
I love that. Insert the missing space back in mentally. Understand the mechanism before you ride the moving walkway.
Exactly.
This has been such a deeply fun exercise. Thank you for giving us such a brilliant minimalist challenge today.
It really proves that sometimes the smallest digital artifacts hold the most significant architectural blueprints.
They really do. But before we go, I want to leave you, our listener, with one final thing to ponder. Something that builds on everything we just discussed about this tiny threshold.
Okay.
The text demands that you sign in to access the Google Apps through Google Gemini. The token exchange happens. But think about the direction of that transaction when you finally cross the threshold.
Right.
Are you truly unlocking the door to access the apps? Or, by handing over your verified digital token, are you actually unlocking the door of your own identity for the apps to access you? Have a great day and keep questioning the gateways.